Hello, audience. The other day I talked about oral narratives, and this was more so on general features. Now, today I'm going to focus on performance of narratives. Why? Because we find these questions in paper 1. Now, when we are talking about performance of narratives in a traditional setting, we expect that adults will be telling stories to children. They may be grandfathers, grandmothers, aunts, mothers, and all that. We also have adults telling stories to children or other adults. Maybe you want to find out something about the origin of a certain individual, or you want to understand things to do with ogres or some people, some figures who are legends within a society. There are times children can talk to other children and tell them stories. For example, if I visit my aunt in Uganda or I go to my uncle in Tanzania, then I'll have to talk to their children if I'm a child, and I'll be narrating some stories to do with the theological tales and any other stories that are within my community. There are times children tell stories to a group of other children, maybe within a school, and they can even tell to adults. When I sit with children and I want to have an interesting time, I'll allow them to talk, and when they are talking, they'll give stories. Now, stories are normally told in drama festivals currently, and I think you've seen dramatized narratives. We have formal situations in classes where narratives are also given. Now, what is the role of the audience in narratives? Audience sometimes can be passive or active, and audience are there. It's a group of people who are listening to a narration as it goes on. Now, when you're telling stories, you might have active audience. Active audience have their particular way in which they behave. Now, questions normally come around active audience. They'll ask you, if we have active audience, how will you see that they're effective in paying attention or participating in narration? Now, I hope this is what you'll obviously see. Audience who are participating or effectively listening to you will have to laugh. Yeah, there are situations which are humorous in a story, so you expect them to laugh. Active audience sometimes will nod. Maybe they are agreeing with what you're saying. And sometimes they ask questions. You'll find they're clapping if they have enjoyed the story. Sometimes they'll join you in singing or in parts which are repetitive. They also show their emotions, appropriate emotions. Like you'll find them smiling. They might mourn, like sulk, and all those emotions depending on whatever is happening in a story. We have also passive audience, and normally in paper one, a question comes and they ask, maybe if you're having passive audience, how would you realize that these audience are not participative? What will you see? These ones are just dormant. They just keep quiet. They don't even nod. They avoid participating in any form, whether they're emotions or, they just turn out to be liveless. Now, we have the storyteller also when we come to narrations, because performance is about the narrator and the audience. So, the storyteller, what do we expect of a good storyteller? Obviously, for me to notice that this is a good storyteller, the storyteller will be bold, very courageous. And when they are giving the narration, they face the audience, they move about from one place to another, and they're excited about what they're saying. So you'll see even emotions on their face. Now, a good storyteller has a very good memory. They can recall whatever happened in a story from the beginning to an end. You'll not see them telling you like, I forgot this, or going back. So they'll not have a retrogressive way of telling a story. You have this kind of storyteller who is very creative and imaginative. You realize that sometimes when you're telling a story, you lose a track or you forget something. But creative storytellers might not reveal to the audience that there is something they have forgot. Maybe they'll just have feelers like, but then you will find that they've just creatively come up with a way in which they'll cover up for their aspect of forgetfulness. They make the story so interesting through that creativity. And you might find yourself asking, did I really hear this story somewhere? You might think it's quite new, but they're just creating it. Storytellers are always aiming to teach morality. So you'll never get a storyteller who is good twisting a story to make it just a flat story. It must have a teaching lesson. As I told you, narratives have a lesson they teach people. A good storyteller is very good in acting, and when you're watching, you'll just find yourself leaning forward, following, smiling, because they are making the performance so dramatic. Their facial expressions are exciting, and if they're crying, you really feel like they are. You might even find yourself crying. Their gestures are just real time. Good storytellers, they normally know the past of a variety of communities, because if you have decided to be a storyteller, then you must learn about different communities and what they do and how they do it. So you will be quite dynamic and appealing to different generations, because you understand the past of the people. So you have to bring it out quite well. Good storytellers are very sensitive, by the way. When they come on stage, they will not be absurd and, tend to be creating mixed feelings among some people of certain age, the old, the young, or a given gender, maybe the women or men, or given ethnic groups. If you find people are making you feel disgusted, or you feel like they're attacking you, those ones are not good storytellers. Good storytellers are supposed to avoid obscenities. They should not sound rude. And euphemism should be the way, where in a case where taboo words are coming out. But if you find a storyteller who is bringing out taboo words, oh no, that one is not a good storyteller. Now, a good storyteller, as I've said, I think I've told you they're creative. They have good memory. I've told you they're bold. They are interested in different cultures. They know the past. They have to teach morality. They are good actors, and they are very sensitive. Will you remember that? I hope you will. Now, when you are telling a story, I think these are just aspects that I'm repeating in one way or another, but if they come in paper one, you should have heard from me. Now, good storytelling demands that we be dramatic. So, dramatization. What do I mean by this? You reenact the story through visual insights, so that maybe you sit up, you plead while kneeling, you can even cry on stage, and tears, we can actually see the tears, just like we see in some movies that people act out there. Now we have to get the gestures, and students, don't just be of the habit of writing gestures. We have specific gestures. Tell us that maybe the narrator will raise the hands, or if I'm the one performing this, I'll have to lift an object, I'll throw an object, maybe I'll beckon, such words, because I hope you understand what gestures are, is to do with hands. Now, facial expression, don't just tell us that I'll use facial expression. What is that? You have to go on and say that I'll smile as I say this. I'll show shock on my face, you know, because maybe something that has happened is not quite expected. I'll show anchor, and so I'll look up and show anchor, maybe by looking at the other person, and I'll express suspicion. So we have different facial expressions, and go specific with a particular reason why you'll do so. The tone variations. If you just tell us tone variation, we will ask ourselves questions about what you're saying. So come up and tell us that maybe I'll have to show urgency, maybe fear, excitement, by raising or having the lowering of the tone and all that. Mimicry. Many students don't understand what mimicry is, but here, this is what mimicry means. It is imitating a certain animal, certain people, or even objects. For example, if you're talking about the falling of a coin, you'll say clink, clink, my coin fell. If you're talking about the goat, you say meh, and all those. Yeah, you mimic even how somebody talks. I know students, you are very good in this. You mimic a lot about teachers, and so I cannot really talk much about this. Now, there is also an aspect of involving the audience. You talk about, maybe I'll ask them a question and you can give us that. Maybe during giving of the opening formula, I'll sing a song that is exciting so that they sing along with me. I'll ask a question about, do you want to hear the story? And the audience will obviously answer. So that is a way of engaging the audience. I will put on costumes that are appropriate or decorations on stage that are suitable. You know very well that during drama festival, that's what happens. Yeah, so we have specific costumes that will really glue the audience to you as a performer. Now we have dramatic poses. Maybe I'll pause to give them room to understand, or to allow them to absorb the shock, or to get to this disbelief. Yeah. And then we have stage movement. Don't just say I'll move about. Talk about, maybe I'll move from one place to another specific. Then I'll use accompaniments or musical instruments, maybe shakers, maybe jingles, maybe horns, maybe flutes, maybe drums. Yeah. So I hope you've heard all that I've shared today concerning performance of oral narratives. And in case you have questions, post them just below the YouTube video. You are also allowed to share what I've not shared with you. And as you can see, I'm focusing on performance here. And performance is never tested in paper 2. Be sure that it comes in paper 1. And so, be specific. The only secret in English papers is that we should go specific, especially paper 1. And sometimes we should be detailed in explaining why we do some things. Now, when we fail to do that, that is why you get to lose some of your marks. Bye-bye for now. Till we meet next time.